In 2013, hours before the biggest fight of his life, Leandro Feijão Souza lay on the locker room floor, dehydrated and dying. His opponent never even threw a punch. In fact, the real fight was against the scale. Leandro Souza is one of the many people who have tragically succumbed to the dangers of MMA weight cutting. To understand how risks have become common, it's important to first understand the sport itself. MMA, or mixed martial arts, is best known for pitting fighters against each other in hand-to-hand combat, often drawing comparisons to boxing. Fighters are grouped into different weight classes based on what weight they want to fight at. Fighters enter training camps in order to help build strength and condition their bodies before a fight. Training camps usually begin 8 to 12 weeks before a fight happens, giving athletes time to condition their bodies and begin cutting a lot of weight. But in order to gain an advantage, most fighters tend to weigh 10 to 15 pounds more before their cut. Fighters often dehydrate themselves over 24 to 36-hour periods just to make weight, a process that can push the human body beyond safe limits. While this practice has become a normal part of the MMA culture, extreme weight cutting has emerged as one of the most dangerous and unethical issues, putting fighters' health at risk and raising serious questions about how far the sport is willing to go just for competition. Perhaps the biggest reason weight cutting persists is because the practice is one that prioritizes entertainment value over fighter well-being. For instance, the UFC has a whole show dedicated to the weigh-in the day before the fight. The weigh-ins are heavily promoted online to generate hype for upcoming fights. These events rarely draw attention to the condition these fighters are in. There have been instances where fighters have passed out or even gone to the hospital due to complications with their weight cut. In one notable case from 2017, UFC featherweight fighter Mizuto Hiroto was removed from the event after he stumbled off the scales at the weigh-in. Hiroto was later taken to the hospital where he was deemed unfit to fight. And unfortunately for Hirota, he paid for this by never being allowed to fight on a main card again. Such disregard for fighters' safety isn't new, as in 2019 the UFC would set up a super fight between two champions from different weight classes. TJ Dillashaw was fighting at the 135-pound division and had to make the move to cut down an additional 10 pounds to 125 in order to take on Henry Cejudo. To make weight, Dillashaw felt he had to use steroids, which have major health precautions and violate the UFC's anti-doping policy. With the UFC showing that missing weight results in harsh punishments, he felt pressured to make weight by any means necessary. Dillashaw used a program devised by a triathlete math professor in order to lose 29 pounds over the span of 12 weeks. After losing the extra 10 pounds, Dillashaw appeared frail. It was no match for Cejudo, getting knocked out within the first minute of the fight. Stories like Hirota's and Dillashaw's reveal how far the MMA industry is willing to push its athletes for entertainment. A study found that during the 8-week camp of an MMA fighter, he lost over 37 pounds. During this period, a severe reduction in their testosterone production was observed, a sign the body does not have enough energy to maintain basic hormone functions. This same study also found that a large increase in both urea and creatinine in their blood, alongside extremely high blood sodium content, each of which indicate kidney malfunction. Put together, these symptoms resemble the start of a medical emergency, not preparation of a professional fight. For many fighters, surviving one weight cut only means facing another. Fighters put themselves through these rigorous ups and downs 2 to 3 times a year, which begins the deterioration of their lifelong health. Over time, repeated dehydration and physical trauma compound these effects. Combined with constant head impacts, they can contribute to CTE, a degenerative brain disease more commonly associated with NFL players. Weight cutting doesn't just affect long-term health, it also impairs fighters during the fighting event itself. Research shows that rapid weight loss led to confusion in fighters. In combat sports, where split-second decision-making is critical, weight cutting can cloud an athlete's judgment and impair performance. Other cognitive test results confirm that fighters who cut large amounts of weight in a short period of time show slower mobility and short-term memory issues. These findings make it clear that extreme weight cutting is not just a competitive strategy, it's a health crisis that continues to threaten fighters long after they leave the cage. Even with the clear dangers, fighters often justify weight cutting as a necessary strategy to keep competition fair. It makes sense to want two fighters to be equal at the same weight, but most fighters aren't going through the same weight cuts. Athletes' body types are different, and some may have to cut a lot more weight. On average, athletes who lost their fight cut significantly more body mass compared with athletes who won, favoring 10.6% to the athletes who lost compared to 8.6% for the ones who won, showing a more comparative advantage with those who had the easier weight cut. Furthermore, recent research shows that weight classes themselves can be misleading in terms of equality. A study was conducted for 616 different MMA athletes between the years 2020 and 2022 to find out how much weight would be cut prior to their weigh-ins. Athletes provided self-reported weights at 72 hours, 48 hours, and 24 hours prior to the official weigh-in, and results showed that UFC athletes lost nearly 6.7% of their total weight in a 72-hour period. For most fighters, this was upwards of 15 pounds lost mere hours before the official weigh-in. Following the official weigh-in, fighters are given the next 24 to 36 hours to rehydrate themselves. On average, a fighter would gain 9.7% of their total body weight between official weigh-in and competition, resulting in fighters being almost 15 to 20 pounds heavier than what they weighed in at. Current UFC champion Islam Makhachev used to fight at the 155-pound mark. Islam's weight cut was considered one of the more brutal in the UFC, typically cutting 35 pounds mere months before weigh-ins. Due to the brutality of the weight cut, Islam moved up to the 170-pound mark, cutting significantly less weight this time around. After the fight, he was asked about the difference in weight cuts between divisions, in which he said,
"No cut weight, feel 5 rounds non-stop, I can wrestle, I can do whatever I want."
This raises the question of why weight cutting is necessary if the rules are already being manipulated. For fighters, cutting weight not only adds unnecessary physical stress, but also takes away time that can be spent on improving skill and conditioning. Meaningful change will require organizations to face the reality of extreme weight cutting head on. At the core of it, MMA is supposed to settle who the best fighter really is, the one possessing the most skill, strategy, and heart. Weight classes were designed to ensure fairness by matching opponents of similar size and strength. However, that system has utterly failed in practice. Rather than the path towards balance, it has allowed a treacherous trend to take place in which fighters depend on cutting tremendous amounts of weight for a competitive advantage rather than putting it to work to improve their true talents. The sport has drifted away from testing skill and discipline and has instead rewarded those willing to endanger their health for a number on a scale.